Hey everybody. So today's video is going to be a little different. Just a conversation. Because lately I've been noticing something. And honestly, I think a lot more people are feeling it more than they're willing to admit. I think people are exhausted. Not just physically tired. I mean mentally, emotionally, financially, and spiritually exhausted. I think a whole lot of people are running on fumes right now while pretending that they're completely fine. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't really think I am. Because life feels different now. It feels louder, faster, heavier. And I don't think people were meant to live with this much input all day, every day. Every time you pick up your phone, there's another crisis, another argument, another notification or bill, and another reminder that everything costs more than it used to. It's it's constant. And after a while, your brain never really shuts off anymore. You wake up already behind. You go to bed mentally exhausted, and somehow you still can't quiet your mind enough to actually rest. And I think for people over 50, it hits a little differently because a lot of us remember when life didn't feel this heavy. We remember when you could actually unplug, when dinner wasn't interrupted every 30 seconds with a text message. We couldn't even have the phone on the hook when I was a child. When people stopped by the house instead of sending emojis, when not everybody felt angry all the time, when your attention belonged to you. Now, everything competes for it. And you know what's strange? Most of us are more connected than we've ever been, yet we're lonelier at the exact same time. You can instantly communicate with somebody across the country, but a lot of people don't even know their neighbors anymore. And I think that affects us more deeply than we realize because human beings weren't built for this kind of disconnected connection. We were built for real conversations, real community, real quiet with real purpose. Now everything feels temporary. Temporary attention spans, temporary friendships, temporary entertainment. Even rest doesn't feel real anymore. Most people don't really rest now. They just switch screens. And I think one of the hardest realizations for a lot of people is recognizing that the world that they understood that doesn't really exist anymore. And I don't mean that bitterly. I mean it honestly. The rules changed. The pace changed. Technology and communication, relationships, even the economy, they've all changed. And a whole lot of people quietly feel like they're trying to learn an entirely new world while pretending that they're keeping up just fine. And that is exhausting, especially now, because it feels like the world expects you to reinvent yourself every 6 months. New apps, new passwords, new expectations, new versions of yourself. At some point, your brain just says, enough. And maybe the hardest part of all is realizing how much of your life was spent rushing to build careers, rushing to raise families, rushing to pay bills, rushing to survive. And one day you look around and you realize you spent decades hurrying without ever really feeling settled. That thought, it hits hard because I think a lot of people reach the stage of life where peace sounds better than excitement. It has in my world. Not because we're giving up, but because we're tired of chaos. And honestly, I think that's wisdom more than weakness. You start realizing maybe success wasn't supposed to feel this stressful all the time. Maybe constantly being overwhelmed isn't normal. Maybe being reachable 24 hours a day isn't healthy. And maybe staring at bad news every waking hour was never something that the human brain was designed to handle. And honestly, I think a lot of people are hitting a wall right now. I am. Not dramatically, quietly. We still go to work, we pay the bills, we still smile, still answer doing good when somebody asks how we're doing. But meanwhile, our mind never stops spinning, thinking about money, health, retirement, aging parents, our children, the future, and whether life is ever really going to slow down again. And I think that's why so many people are anxious right now. Not because we're weak, but because people were never built to absorb this much stress continuously. And maybe that's why so many people are craving simpler things again. Not because they want less out of life, but because peace is starting to feel more valuable than constant stimulation. Real peace, not silence from electronics. I mean, actual peace. The kind where your brain finally unclenches for a little while. The kind where you sit outside at night and don't feel guilty for not being productive every second. I'm outside right now. This is the first time I've done this. The kind where life feels manageable again. And honestly, maybe that's part of why I talk about preparedness as much as I do on this channel. It's not because I think that the world's ending tomorrow, but because reducing chaos, that matters. And having your backup plans matters. And being a little less dependent on the broken systems, that matters. Have food in the pantry, a little cash put away, a way to communicate, and a little independence. That's not panic. That's peace of mind. And I think peace of mind is becoming one of the most valuable things that a person can have right now. Because the world profits from keeping people anxious, scrolling, distracted, overstimulated, and outraged. And eventually you realize protecting your peace, that's part of survival too. Not survival like apocalypse movies. I mean surviving modern life without completely burning yourself out. And honestly, I think people are waking up to that. I am. I think people are starting to value peace, stability, quiet, community health, meaningful time, and real conversations more than the constant hustle. And maybe that's actually one of the healthiest shifts that we've had in years. Because at some point, you stop asking, how do I keep up with the world? And you start asking, what kind of life actually feels worth living? That's a much more important question. Anyway, if any of this hit close to you today, you're not alone, not even close. Because I think the people who feel this most deeply are usually the ones who still care enough to notice. And maybe that's actually the first step. Not an app, not a system, not a 5-step plan, just noticing, slowing down enough to ask better questions, building something quieter, something steadier, something that belongs to you. That's what this channel has always been about for me. And I think it matters more now than it ever has. Take care of yourselves out there. Build a life calm enough, stable enough, and grounded enough to hold together long enough to matter. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you on the next one.